Hey, Riley Besties, welcome back to my Writing with Anna podcast, where we talk about all things writing. In today's episode, it's a little bit of a different, really interesting topic that I haven't really shared too much, or at least I've not dedicated a video to it or anything. I've mentioned it in a couple of my videos, in my YouTube lives, on my Instagram, but not too much on a official podcast. So this is a podcast about it. So I'm really excited that you're here, but we're going to be talking a little bit about being a Christian writer. So if you guys don't know, I'm a Christian. I've been a Christian basically my whole life, and I grew up in a Christian family, which I'm so blessed for. But I'm going to be talking a little bit about writing, about being, a creative who is a Christian, and my struggles and things that I think about, what my books are based off, and all this sort of stuff. So if you're kind of interested in Christianity and how that comes with my writing, I'm so excited to share it with you in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, I do want to actually share a real quote. A real quote. It's not a Bible verse, don't worry, but it's something that Martin Luther King said. And sorry, I don't know why I just spaced out for a second, but it's such a good quote, and I literally quote it quite a lot, and it's something that I really do identify with, and that is this. He says, the Christian shoemaker does his duty not by putting little crosses on his shoes, but by making good shoes. And this is something I so much, I really do identify with. And what's really interesting is how being a Christian, it's really difficult to know if you're doing God's work and stuff like that. So even before I get into how I became a Christian and my writing and all that, I do want to say how in any sort of means of work or career or anything you do, really truly you can do it by doing well. And through that, you're serving God. So even though when I was little, I'll be like, oh my gosh, maybe I need to be a pastor. I don't know if I really can be, but I need to be a pastor to serve God, to make sure that I am serving God in this way. But no, you don't have to do that. You don't even need to be a good Christian friend by telling them Bible verses. No, you just need to be a good friend. So in the same way, I want to be a good Christian writer by being a good writer. Okay, so with that quote kind of out of the way, I want to, of course, talk about being a writer and, of course, how that comes with my stories, my ideas, and if that influences me in any sort of way. So, firstly, my core, what I want to say is how the core of my stories aren't even really Christian. In some of my projects, there are Christian characters. In other of my projects, there is no reference to God, to any Bible verse. It's nothing really. So, the whole idea of Martin Luther King and how I just want to be a good writer is something that is so true even within my projects, with how, your themes don't have to be right there on the face of it. You don't have to open the book and see a Bible verse. You know what I mean? That's not what makes a good Christian author, a good Christian writer. So in the same way, I don't write my books really with God in mind, which is it's really interesting and something that I'm kind of coming to terms with how I feel like it's subconscious, and just me being a Christian writer funnels down to my stories. But it's not like I'm thinking, oh, what does God want to say, or what does God want me to say within my books, which is something I definitely have been trying to pray about a lot more, since my prayer life is not the best. I'm just saying. I'm trying to get better, but I think, yeah, a lot of my books don't really have God at the center. And that's something that I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, in the same way of that quote I shared with you earlier. I don't need to have God everywhere. I don't even need a Christian character. I just need to write a good story and something that's meaningful and good. And that will ultimately bring glory to God. And that's my main goal in life, basically, to please God. Right? So even in my YouTube channel, even in my writing, that sort of whole thing of just doing a good job is something that comes priority for me. Instead of praying to God, oh, I wonder what this story can mean, and I don't know if this is really gonna help your kingdom and all that. It doesn't, to me, it's not as insane. It's, for example, being as in another career, if you're a doctor, how can you really bring glory to God unless you just do your job right and do your job well? you don't have to talk to your patients and spit out Bible verses. You don't have to like ministry like that. You know what I mean? You're just doing a good job by caring for people. And so in the same way, I'm inspiring people through my work. So although my stories aren't core at the core like Christian, at least not blatantly Christian, which I don't know. I feel like being a Christian writer is a bit hard. And I think I explained how like me being a Christian writer sort of like firstly is enough so that when I go into my story, my writing, my sort of perspective on the world is inevitably going to change and shape the things I write about and the way that I write about them. So that's a little spiel that I have. Characters. So I did mention that I called my characters, I think especially one is Lewis Aberlock, who's part of Project O. He's such a cool character. I adore him so, so much. But there are a lot of different characters which are very much alike Lewis who are in different projects in which I continually write about. And these type of characters aren't really like Christian. They're not blatantly, I'm Christian, identify as Christian. No, they're just kind of really good, caring characters. And I feel like just self-reflecting on like this podcast episode when I was drafting up some notes, I really did think about how my characters really do reflect the goodness of God and how like it's sort of like the how we should be, how characters these sorts of really soft characters are characters that I aspire to be like. And in my books, you might maybe know that I have two main characters for like all of my stories. And usually that really kind, caring character changes the life of the struggling character who's maybe in sin or like who's basically just struggling, They don't have to be doing anything wrong. It's just like a sort of interesting switch, an interesting change that is influenced by the softer character. And where I'm kind of going with this is basically how, my characters are kind of indirectly reflections of who I think kind of Jesus is, who I think is a good role model to kind of go after. And at least what I think, like when I think of Jesus and God, like he's inherently good. He's a good person. He's soft and he's caring. And he's just in a way. So these soft characters like Lewis, like Harlow, like Amen, who's another one, like Jody from Project Prison, all these different characters so much. Like I can definitely see it so clearly now of how much I aspire to be like these beautiful characters who are innately good, if that makes sense. And although they're flawed outside, their sort of heart is good. And how that kind of really does influence and sort of foil the other main character. So that's kind of how I think I indirectly kind of share. Even it's just like a personality thing almost. It's almost just like a character thing, that isn't just like, oh, he's Christian, so that's a role model. No, it's just like being a person, being a good person. So the same way of like making good shoes, like making good characters. I don't know if that even makes sense, but do you know what I mean? I feel like that makes sense a little bit. Also, my messages of my stories are definitely things that I've been struggling with and things that I want to say. So I think even if it's subconscious, these are things that I want out in the world. The things that I'm struggling with is something that other people can be struggling with. And through writing about it, I can simply help people. I can simply inspire people. So that in itself is something that is so magical and beautiful. And I think cannot have been done without anyone but God. So I think God really does minister his messages through my own life experience, being a Christian, just being a normal person, really. And through that, kind of just changing up what I'm writing and just kind of directing what ideas I have. Because I truly think that my ideas come from God and my experiences, my life, and who rules my life? My God. So if you can't tell, I love my God so much and I think he's amazing. So in all of the stories that I've written, I think even if, again, they're not at the core, like all about God, that they tell a story. And I think even just referencing like the Bible and the parables that Jesus has written, like spoke of, that's so inspirational and something that through stories, like Jesus was able to show a lesson, a life lesson, the same way I'm expressing my message to the world. So even like my poetry is very much inspired by Jesus, like his symbolism he uses. Y'all need to read the Bible, like the fig tree, birds, doves, like all these different imagery, metaphors and motifs is so beautiful. And I think that really does like help me minister my own message to the world. So that's kind of a little bit more about messaging and my message to the world, not to be dramatic. And lastly, I don't want to say how being a Christian and writing and being a creative Christian is something that I think is so beautiful. Like when you think about it, I've explained this a little bit in a couple of my videos, or just even to my writing friends, of how wonderful it is to be designed from a creator and to create in the same way that your creator has done. Like I create because it's like so natural to me, in the same way like it's natural for God to have created us and created the world, and how beautiful that is. So I just think it's so interesting how innately I'm a creator and I'm a Christian creator and a follower of God. So like that is so beautiful, and like how God has given me this gift, this interest to model off him and to kind of show that creation is beautiful and ideas can be shared and inspired to others. And that's exactly how I approach my YouTube channel, my podcast, my everything, through creating and that sort of excitement. I think creating is the most beautiful sort of thing that I think, yeah, humans just have this want to create, whether it be creating relationships, creating art, creating memories. It's so beautiful. Not to get all poetic on you, but that's kind of like it for this episode. I feel like I've spilled a lot of different, not tea really. It's just my passion. So I think it's good to kind of let you guys know that I'm Christian, and that if you're a Christian writer too, comment down below. I'd love to meet you. If you're not, that's totally okay too. Everyone is literally welcome here. And yeah, although I've kind of struggled a little bit with my faith, and how that really does influence my writing, I think being more at peace with what God has given me and this amazing platform, these ideas, is simply enough. Like I don't have to double think and worry about, am I doing it the right way? It's okay because I can just trust in God. So even if you're struggling right now as a Christian creator, as someone who struggles with, for example, maybe writing, very clean books and you're afraid it's not going to sell, trust in God. Whether you're creating a book that you're not sure if it will honor God or not, trust in God and make sure that just give it all to him, and he will bring glory onto his own kingdom through your work and minister your own stories through your work. I hope you don't hear that in the background. But anyways, that's the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope, I kind of explained a little bit more about my Christian creative side. And yeah, God bless you and your projects. And I hope to see you next writing video. Okay, bye everyone.